And we are also talking with our own council about what additional measures could be done in combination with other stakeholders. And we would turn to our mana whenua, our iwi stakeholders, te roroa, te kuihi, e mihi ana hau ki a koe e matua mō tō raki o te ata, to look at what could be done together with stakeholders that hold these lakes dear to their hearts. And we know that there are many local people who use these systems, you know, for recreation, boating, or for swimming and walking and so on. And we want these waterways to be, you know, safeguarded for them as well. So the situation is where the clam is not in the region yet, not that we know of, but we want to take this opportunity to do everything we can, and in combination with other stakeholders, to see if we can have some prevention measures, you know, put in place. I kind of wish to leave it there, Mr. Chair, if I can. At this point, there's information provided in the report. Perhaps it's an opportunity for committee members to ask questions about it, and for us to see if we can provide the information that you require.
Okay, thank you for that. Well, what I'll do is I'll give everyone a fair crack at it, and let's say take two at a time. We'll go around the table, and when you've had your two, then you'll get a chance to have another two later, but it's just so that the opportunity is provided around the table. So who wants to ask the first question? Oh, Rachel.
Thank you. I've been reading a few things about the gold clam. Has it been considered about migratory birds spreading gold clam at all? I just wonder if there was any information around that, or how that might work.
Very good question. And it's difficult with some of, well, all biosecurity responses known about how it will behave in New Zealand. We do know that sticky thread can attach itself to other material, you know, the larvae and structures and things like that. However, we're not sure whether wildfowl can spread it. Now, having said that, we know that wildfowl don't spread weeds like hornwort and things like that, and you'd think, oh, so we should, you know, attach on, and you know, that doesn't happen. So there's some things that we do know of in the aquatic weed world that wildfowl are definitely not spreaders. It doesn't look like at this point that wildfowl are spreading gold. To its full extent. And overseas, we don't see evidence of that, you know.
I just realised too, you've got your fellow team member online there. Perhaps he'd like to introduce himself too.
Oh,
kia ora koutou. Sorry about that. I was having a few audio challenges. I wasn't able to hear anyone. So kia ora, I'm Ruben Wiley, the Group Manager for Environmental Services. And so I'm part of the team that put together the report, providing the recommendation to this committee. So kia ora koutou.
Thank you, Ruben. Okay, so do you have a second question, Rachel?
Yes, just around the fact that it's Waikato now and they don't know how it got there, and also the kind of things that they're doing with surveillance. They've got the DNA testing, all of those things. They've tested 6 other main lakes in the North Island.
That's right. We're approaching this in stages. Now, there might very well be other actions that we could take down the track that help prevent the clam getting into the region and into other systems, rather than making the exclusion of boats or wet boats, a permanent thing. We don't know yet, but I would say as a precautionary measure, taking this first step just gives a window of time where we can get these other thoughts around. Now, one of the ideas is hygiene stations. It's very difficult to kill this clam, but hygiene stations where you wash down, big wash down facilities, would reduce the risk, So there's stages to this whilst you're kind of assessing this risk. And with biosecurity responses, it is a risk reduction kind of approach. So that's what we're doing here. We're saying get something in early before it lands, and then you're not having this collapse.
Well, can you just hold on that?
Thank you. Thank you. First question that I have is, would the washdown stations be limited to the Waikato region so that any boats going north or south need to be, I don't know what the correct terminology is, but clean there, so that we can be assured that if they're coming here, because we can't afford to put these big washdown facilities, we don't have the water out there. Is that, do you know what the plan is there? Because
we understand the situation in Lake Okataina and those other lakes is where, and this has only just got in place as far as we understand, that before use of those lakes is permitted, that use of the washdown facility is required by the regulation. Now, that doesn't extend to other lakes. So those vessels, those boat owners can travel south and north and go to any other lake they like and use their boat. But to use those lakes down there, Okataina, and I don't know what other lakes are covered in that can, they must use that wash station there. We could have the same regulation in Northland somewhere, if that was deemed to be a collective way forward in time. However, it's not something that we'd jump to immediately at the moment. I think that the practical option of having a increased presence at the lake with some sort of portable washdown facility would be a good thing, just to reduce risk. But I think the main way that we could really reduce risk here is simply preventing that boat use on the lakes for a temporary time. And it would remove one of the biggest risk areas we have.
Second question.
The second question that I have is, so is some of the thinking around the dates that you've proposed for the period, the thinking that that'll also give time to educate the public and recreational users on, it's here, these are the things you need to do, et cetera, and then after that time period, there'll be a plan in place, there'll be bio things in place, and then the public will be vigilant as well. Is that?
Yes, that is exactly what is proposed here. So that this would be a plan that is built with users of the lake as well, and so that you have a chance to have that consultation and build a plan that's strong, because it's the behaviour of people that will, the positive behaviour that will stop the spread of this clam.
And it's not just a Northland thing either, because of course there's huge concern about getting to Lake Taupo and the Bay of Plenty Lakes, etc. So it's not just Northland Regional Council. We're working with other regional councils and with Biosecurity New Zealand to get a national plan. It's, a bit like how when Didimo came out, there was a national plan around trying to stop the spread of that. And so we do need time for that national plan to be put in place, and we're not there yet.
Ruben, do you have anything that you would see as any other issues there?
No, I'd just support what you're saying, gone around the behaviour change here. Shifting people's behaviours takes time, and also education is one of the key mechanisms for supporting that, and we need to enable time to put that in place to enable that behaviour shift. And sorry, my video seems to be dropping out.
Wake boats that were brought here from the United States.
Right.
So I just wanted to raise that with you, that it is the wake boats that are the biggest risk.
Thank you. I've got a couple, oh,
Yeah,
okay, I've got two questions. First one, are these gold clams known to have any natural predators?
In the States, that I'm aware of, in freshwater systems, they're able to overcome a lot of other kind of herbicide treatments and things like that as well, because as a bivalve, they'll just close up and seal themselves. They can build that calcium shell very, very quickly. Quite amazing, actually, how they do that in freshwater systems. But they're able to build that shell from a larvae very, very quickly, and that's really hard. So to bust into that, there's nothing in our freshwater systems that would do that.
So they're basically not a clam, they're a spore. Is that what we're saying? That's really what we're saying, aren't we? The clam is basically a spore.
It is a spore. It's a,
Was it more like
That's,
spat, sort of?
yeah.
yeah, it's a bivalve, just like a kaki or a mussel, freshwater mussel, and it can just you know, tighten up. And if there's anything foreign in that water space around it, it doesn't have to open until it feeds. And they also exist for about, from memory, about 10 to 12 centimetres under the substrate, under the sediment. So they'll sit under there, yeah, and they can be found. So not just you know, on the surface. Usually when you see them, you see dead shells on the surface.
They can even live in salt water.
Sorry?
They can even live in salt water for a time. So
That was going to be my second question. But how tolerant are they of salt water? Like, are they a risk to the Kaipara Harbour, for instance?
They have to open at some stage, but they can tolerate that brackish and salt water for a short time, you know, and keep closed. 10 days, yeah.
10 days.
Okay, so there's a sort of a natural limiting factor there then?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But the rivers are definitely another habitat that if they're living in the Waikato, they could be living in these rivers as well. It's not just the lakes.
Well, I had Vishnaya.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm not an expert, so my questions are very basic. So this was discovered based on Google, but 2023, you discovered this species. And it's one of million reasons to stop the lake. I mean, we already had one previous instance of something, and I don't know what species and how many species are there in New Zealand. This is not something which has come through the biosecurity labs in the airport. It is something which has come naturally. Is that right?
No, it has
So
been.
who introduced it? Who brought it to Waikato?
We think that the import was brought into New Zealand with imported wake boats, the bilge water and imported wake boats.
You said you think. There's no conclusive evidence.
That's what Biosecurity New Zealand believes, yeah.
Again, it is. So that's one thing. And second, you have chosen this time, which is being a councillor here, very concerned about Kaipara, the time whereby all those people like me who have absolutely no clue, and we have done it before and we are going to do it again, to stop something which is the only event in Kaipara, to be honest, a big event. The Kaiwi Lake is that somebody told me is like South Americans' lagoon or whatever, you know, something like that. So what is the urgency what will happen from now or between a year? And how far you will go in New Zealand, because you have to fish every lake to find it, or stop boating everywhere in New Zealand. How far you will go? Yeah, thank you.
What we're suggesting the committee consider is not the banning of all the public from Taharoa lakes, but the stopping of particularly boats and power boats for a temporary time at Kaiwi lakes. We're not suggesting that other lakes in Northland have this rule at the moment, but it's just that the risk that is posed because of the high numbers of people that use the lakes over summer, to give a temporary ban on those two things, power boats, wake boats and other power boats.
So, sorry, my second question?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Just a corollary to that, as I said, you don't have the expertise to come back with a result which is conclusive, because we have seen 10-year research on one thing when we were stopped from trout, still inconclusive. And how can you expect in 6 months with your capabilities, no disrespect to you, to come out with a conclusive evidence and not say we need more time and you want to close it permanently? Is that the intention, or is it what's going to happen?
A question.
Yeah.
You would be in control of that. It would be the Kaipara District Council who sets the bylaw, who administers the bylaw, and who controls when it was in place or not the regional council.
Thank you.
I guess just one thing you said, what's the urgency? And I guess one of the things is that prevention with biosecurity incursions is always the best action if you can at all take, if you can take the precautionary principle and put it in place, then that's always a best practice, because we'll never get this chance again. Like it says in the report several times, once the clam has arrived in an area around the world, it's never been eradicated. So I guess that's the worst case scenario, but it is, I suppose, the barrel of the gun that you're looking down is that once it's here, we don't think we'll be able to eradicate it. So we're like asking for this time to put more things in place so that we can reduce the chance of it getting here.
Sorry, just an answer to that. All I'm trying to say here, it was discovered in May 23, and about 6 months later, you have been able to produce a report. And we have seen the past 10 years or 8 years of research. So all I'm trying to figure out how you can be capable enough to come out with a definitive answer on this. I'll be surprised. Thank you.
And there are, yeah, I agree with you, there are unknowns.
Yes, what you're saying is you can't always get all the toothpaste back in the tube if you wanted. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Don, when do you recommend that we close the lake to power boats and wake boats?
The precautionary principle says as soon as you can, as soon as you can, and particularly before the summer season starts proper and we get more traffic. We don't know what this pressure will do with boaties heading north. All indications to us is that it is going to be a great summer for Northland, with many visitors wanting to visit the region.
So it'll be a call of the Kaipara District Council, NRC, do not be involved in that cutting down.
Yeah, and we're suggesting that the council uses its existing bylaw to prevent the use of those vessels.
And the other thing I was going to ask, with the vegetation level, has that improved or has it got worse?
It hasn't improved, no. The last page of the report, it just talks about the monitoring that we've done. We recorded it first in March 2023, that significant loss. Then we went back again in May and again in early October, and the vegetation hasn't improved so far.
Right, if we're going to close the lakes, are you saying the 2 lakes or the 3 lakes?
The lake.
Taharoa, sorry.
Taharoa, okay.
Only Taharoa is allowed boats.
Well, there probably will be campers arriving in the first week of December, probably even earlier. So we've got to move now. And it's been a long time coming.
You get a chance to make your statement later. But thank you for that. Anyone else got any questions? Yeah.
Okay, So you're saying it's not just powerboats, it can come in canoes, sailing dinghies, whatever?
Correct.
Theoretically.
So out of the water, have you got any indication of how long they live when they're removed from the water?
Up to 10 days.
Up to 10 days. Okay, have you got any numbers for the movement of boats from the Waikato to Kaiui?
No, we don't know, and we wouldn't know what to predict.
Apart from the one survey we did over 2 days at Labour Weekend, which is a very small snapshot. And there was only one boat that had come from Hamilton.
Okay,
That was your two questions, Mr Mayor. We can come back if you could just pause and then around, actually, Sonny, did you want to ask a question or two?
No. Yes, one more question, please. You're talking about the boats being banned. Would you consider just the ballast boats? Which is a wide range, but not all boats are ballast. You know, and there could be a check system. If there's any water at all in the boat at all, then it's not allowed to come, even if it's non-ballast.
I think that what we're seeing in all boats is that residual water can be kept in the boat, tin boats or whatever. And that's really the same as bilge water.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you've got a tinny on the trailer and you get to the end, oh, gee, I haven't undone the bung at the back. You undo the bung and let it all drain out because you've got a bit of lake water inside the boat.
Absolutely.
So, but I'm not saying it can be done, but I think as a precautionary measure, take this approach first and then work out the plan where you could say, okay, we can temper it by allowing this sort of thing here.
Thank you. What I'm going to do now is just, we'll go around the room in turn. So Councillor Pera, would you like to carry on?
Thank you. So, can you just give us paint a picture of what would happen if our lakes turned into the Waikato? What would be the effects on the ecology, the systems that we have there? You know, it's a place of high significance to not only Northern but New Zealand. So, yeah, I guess the consequences.
Okay, my worst case scenario, and this is based on what's happened overseas in systems, is that when you walk out into the lake, you're walking out on sharp shells. You're no longer walking out on a smooth, sandy, soily base. The shells are piled several inches high. And I'm talking some decades down the track because these take a long time to build up. Underneath those shells, you've got live clams growing. There is no way in Hades that any of your native life around those shallows can grow anymore. The light closes out and doesn't provide for those natural macrophytes that you find in lakes to grow. Those systems overseas are bare, they are barren. That triggers lack of feeding habitats for kiwai. It triggers lack of feeding habitats for trout, anything else that's in that system. Those birds that feed on that system, they're affected by that. So it is called an ecosystem changer overseas for these reasons. It forms mass colonies spread to great depths. We don't know the full impact of it yet, but a precautionary approach is to say, we don't even want to try to go there. Let's call it quits.
What about the water quality? Can you still swim? Like, what's the water quality like?
The water quality, I don't know how it would affect the water chemistry at all. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, it's a filter feeder, so presumably it would take stuff out the water. It could also, a system engineer, so it could modify your plankton, which, you know, your plankton goes around gobbling up any algal stuff that's in the water. So if it's engineering that ecosystem, presumably it would change that. clams and mussels turawai, and that they produce pseudo feces. So, you know, that's all the crap that would be underneath all these shell beds. Probably my biggest concern, because I'm a plant person, is that in those 3 lakes, there's 13 lakes in Northland where a critically endangered plant, this little dinosaur plant, Tritherium conspicua, that grows in the sandy shallows of these dune lakes. Now it's already disappeared from 5 of those lakes. It's only left in 7 lakes in the whole world. And the 3 Kaiwi lakes it is left in, and it grows in the sandy shallows, which is exactly the same habitat that your gold clam would occupy. So these plants are critically endangered, in other words, likely to become extinct in the short term. And I would say this would almost certainly, they would disappear, that plant would disappear from those 3 lakes if you got
Voice. Okay, thank you. Sunny, you just asked a couple. Rachel, did you have any more questions?
Yes, just one more thing.
Okay.
I note that MPI has some funding around this for councils. And I just wondered, would it be something that, this might be KDC staff actually, I'm not too sure. Would it be something that the KDC would put a funding application in for steam or these, you know, bleach baths that they talk about for cleaning and or that as a measure?
There's potential for that, but we would have to discuss with this committee around how we would implement that, because we do draw water from the lakes out at Kaiwi and Taharoa, so there would be an impact further on the domain to implement that, but that's definitely an option.
Okay.
Councillor Ash.
Thank you, Chair. So I again went back to Google and say 10th of November, which is 2 days ago, a notice has been issued about 14 lakes in Waikato in terms of what they should do to stop the spread, which is like clean boats and all those things. So my question is, when you close it, obviously you'll not have any boats to play with to find out what's happening there. What is your modus operandi rather than educating and looking for people and taking samples and doing some research when it is open? How would you be able to, that's my first question, to go with your research thing when the whole thing is not there? You have no samples to look at. What's your modus operandi for those 6 months?
So, and excuse me, but I'll try and answer this. What I think this question is, if the council decided to recommend the closure of the lakes for wake boats and power boats under its bylaw, then the regional council we would be recommending to our council that we partner with the Kaipara District Council, with Mana Whenua, towards a plan. And in that sense, and I might turn to the councillor here who asked the question about MPI's involvement, I think that would be the very strongest position to be in, to go to MPI to say, would you help fund this collective approach? In that approach, we would certainly ramp up the use of eDNA sampling, publicity, campaigning, washdown facilities, the whole lot. Has that answered your question?
Well, all I'm trying to say is what brings us to this table. When there's a controlled area notice under biosecurity law issued on 10th of November,
yes,
saying how to control clam, why we are going a step further, because they have given the directives what you should do. You should educate people, you wash it, whatever, their photographs, take a photo, send it. There's a very controlled program, which I have full faith in. what is bringing us to this table to stop it and start the cycle again? With what are the incentives to us? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. The controlled area notice is a precautionary attempt by Biosecurity in New Zealand to stop the spread. And you can either believe that wholeheartedly or not. The reality is that we know that controlled area notices often don't work. They haven't worked for Kalupa. Kalupa, the marine pest that's in Aotea, has spread outside that control area notice and is now in other parts of Northland. So it's a decision of the committee of whether it has confidence and full faith, and great that MPI are doing this, it's fantastic, because it is a precautionary measure, but it cannot 100% guarantee that gold clam will not spread out of that area, out of that zone.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor,
So,
interrupted you mid-flight, sorry, last time.
all right, got a number of questions. So this was alerted in May 2023, and we're now over 6 months. What's your plan now? We had a plan, we had communications. I see you've got a list of them there. This time you need to prepare a plan, will it be any more advanced than this?
I think that there's a real opportunity to develop a plan collectively. I think that the regulations lie council, if they choose to use those, to add to some of the measures of advocacy that we have begun since that time and publicity. But at this stage, we have no regulation. So I see this as something that you would continue to build. And the more you do that, the more risk reduction you have.
Can I also just add that MPI have, in those 6 months, put together a significant amount of communications and information material that we've been using. It's all on their website and very freely available, and we've taken from that. And also we did work together with KDC and with Mana Whenua over Labour weekend with joint communications, and being present, that's when we stopped all the people coming into Lake Taharoa. That's where we got the survey response. So we have started that. So while we don't have a formal plan, we have been putting in place what we have. And we also have the check clean dry advocate, and that's something we've been doing every summer. But this year, of course, we'll be focusing on the gold clam and getting more signage, etc., out in the advocates. We're hoping that we'll have more of a presence there this summer than we would normally have.
Would it be able to move quickly to say that we would not allow any boats registered south of Auckland to use the lakes? Because the problem I see here, significant investments in their tourist facilities, for example, and they're going to get huge drop-offs in their bookings. So if we had an interim situation while you develop a better plan, but initially, if you, what strikes me is your main concern is the transport from the Waikato to the north. If we, and there's no guarantee, I mean, people could bring them in their canoes, you know, even my little, you know, it's a very tenable situation, but what I'm saying is we could have an interim solution that says, right, no boats south of Auckland, registered south of Auckland, because anyone that brings a boat from Auckland south, I would be very surprised if they weren't registered from where they're coming from.
Are boats registered?
A lot of boats aren't registered.
The trailers are.
Jet skis are the worst.
I don't think that's pretty cool.
So, what's your response to the question?
Well, I think, look, we wouldn't have the powers and regulation to regulate anything, you know, ourselves in the region, and particularly beyond the region. We're simply suggesting that the committee consider the bylaw that it has, the power that it has to give a little bit of a window here. Whilst we build a collective plan. The use of wake boats and power boats, clearly the biggest risk on this lake. And yeah, this is simply an opportunity we wanted to bring to the committee for that reason. You have that power now to do that. And it's just a question of whether the committee would choose to use that.
Okay, so that's the answer they have on that. Was there anything else? Move right along to
Oh, yes.
Roddy.
It just seems to me that.
Good. This is still question time.
Question.
Then we'll be able to make our statements. So.
The question I have, Don, is Lake Waikari is used by boats as well, but you exempted. You just said Taharoa. So we have boats on Waikari as well. That should be closed. Your comment.
No boats available.
There's no power boats, there's sailboats, kayaks, paddle boards, things like that on Waikari Lake.
Yeah.
It's life jacket.
Start.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I think we've.
You said statement later on, is it?
Pardon?
This is just still question.
Yep. Well, we're just about come to the end of question time, I think. So.
Mr. Chairman, I guess this is a question for Don and Jackie. Is it possible that the current restrictions on the Waikato could push some of those users up into Northland?
Definitely, and we just don't know what effect that will have. That will, I think we've talked about it before, it could push owners north and south. But we're not sure about that yet, but it is a risk.
Well, I think I'll call it quits now for a question time. So thank you. You can, I'll allow you just shortly.
Okay.
So the next phase we move on to will be statements from members, but before that happens, we will ask our staff member to speak to her report before before that. Okay, and that means that members will be able to ask questions of her.
Is it the same report?
I just want to cover off the impacts of the decision that we're making and the impacts of the recommendation. So I'll provide that information to the committee.
I'll just sit down.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
So I just want to acknowledge NRC for providing the report. And while it is NRC's recommendation, I just want to remind everyone that KDC wholly owns the bylaws and will wholly own the impact from the customers and communities based on this recommendation. And note that this is a recommendation that will need to go to council for approval. So there's just a few things in here that I just want to cover off. For us to make a recommendation to council, that paper would not go to council until the 13th of December for approval. So there's, we're then getting into the Christmas period to be notifying campers and day visitors in a very peak period where there's a lot of office shutdowns and lack of resourcing to be able to manage this as they're going into Christmas. The other thing is that under the bylaw, there's no ability for KDC to temporarily impose a ban under the bylaw. So while we can put a chain or block the boat ramp off, we can't actually stop people from entering the lake at any other point around the lake, and we would not have any regulatory teeth to be able to infringe or stop someone once they had their boats on the lake. The only way for us to actually have the power to control and stop people from having boats on the lake is to amend the bylaws. Because the bylaws are associated with the reserve management plan, we would need to go out and consult with the community on the reserve management plan and then on the associated bylaws, and that the time period to do that is around 18 months for each, and would cost around $30,000 each consultation. The other thing is that and Taharoa ambassadors over the summer, because the community feedback will be quite negative based on our experience from removing power-driven vessels from Waikari and Kaiwi. We had over 2,000 pieces of written submission that were provided to council, and we had a protest of around about 120 people in front of 42 Hokianga Road. This was with the allowance of still having boats on Taharoa, just the removal of Waikari and Kaiwi. So this committee and Kaipara District Council needs to be prepared for any public backlash that this might create, and noting that this is short notice, that we haven't got any evidence to say that we have boats from the Waikato region coming in on a regular basis, and the ability to control boats in a short term through clean, check, dry or education will have a resourcing requirement on my team, which we have not forecasted or prepared for going into the summer period. The other thing I would note is that around the Waikato River region, any lakes that have been closed, such as the one in Rotorua, have been done so by iwi through a rāhui, because this bylaw and the governance process around boats on lakes and the accessibility is so time consuming and expensive. I'll just leave it there. Any questions?
Certainly. Councillor
There's
Pepper.
quite a few points. So the first thing that you're talking about, the amendment to the bylaw, that's not what's put up in the motion. So that's sort of a thing that would be further down the track. So there's no requirement.
So the bylaw will not restrict us from letting people go onto the boats temporarily. If we can temporarily, the only way to stop boats to get
taken. So this is similar to a rāhui, what we're doing. So there is no real.
What says that?
Sorry, I'm just speaking. If you could get it down.
Oh, yes.
So as I was saying, so what we're actually, so the motion today doesn't have any teeth, but it's, so this is a co-governance committee, so it's similar, it's akin to a rāhui. So it's a setting a clear direction or setting a clear intention of what the position of the committee is. Now, I've never seen a recommendation from a committee such as this that holds the mana of the whatever asset or whatever it is that it has, then going to council and being the decision of the council not being consistent with the decision of the committee. So if it's approved here today, then I would expect that the council pushes on the campaign to the public around why this very precautionary measure has taken place. So we're in November now, so there's plenty of time to do that. Now, I understand that there's only, well, according to the small sample that NRC took, only 11% of users are boat goers, the rest are recreational, cycling.
Going to be a question here somewhere?
Yeah, so the that I had was around the amount of resources that you're going to have to put towards it. Because of all the backlash, is this not different? Because the last time it was very unclear what the reason being for the ban was, whereas now we can clearly say this is a very precautionary measure, you know, here's what the risk is.
Absolutely. I'm just preparing this committee for the fact that there will be a public perception and there will be feedback that will be required for us to share to this committee, and there's potential because it's at short notice, and because we're, well, mostly because we're short notice and we've got campers booked and paid for, we get people to pay for in advance. The potential is.
What does it? It's only the putting the boats on, so they're still able to come camping, they're still.
Yes, they could be coming here specifically for boating. So we don't understand those numbers. We don't understand the impact. What we do understand is that we would need to do a multi-district communication campaign. So we would need to reach beyond Northland. We'd need to reach beyond the Kaipara. So we'd need to go south of the Bombay Hills into the Waikato region and further to be able to ensure that people understood the ban or temporary ban and exclusion of boats. That will have a cost. And also having more staff out at the lakes, NRC and KDC included, will have an additional.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions?
It's just a quick question, Haley, do we have any information on, I think we're quite far off from Waikato. There are councils and councils around Waikato. Are we aware any one of them has taken a measure like that?
To my knowledge, I only understand no district councils have been able to successfully close the lakes, although some of them are now looking at consultation for that bylaw process. But like I say, it's about a 12 to 18 month timeline with a substantial cost to it.
And sorry, corollary to that is, if you close it, obviously there will be some people who will lose their jobs who are looking after this kind of thing.
No, that's incorrect. No, our Taharoa domain officers maintain the domain and the campground, so this would not impact any of us.
There is no effect on revenue apart from the fact that we lose all those.
It would only impact on revenue for those campers that have booked and paid and make cancellations based on this decision.
And reputational risk. Thank you.
Thank you for outlining that. So it's a minimum of 12 months or 18 months before we can close the lakes to boats.
Well, we could close them temporarily and put a barrier, but that would be the limit that we would be able to do.
They could put their boats in somewhere else.
Correct, yeah. In order to completely, to make this a permanent ban or to amend a bylaw so that we would have teeth to be able to infringe and monitor and control.
So the way I see it is that iwi, local iwi, have got to place a rahui if we wish to close the lakes to boats of all kinds.
It's not.
And we can do that before Christmas.
Iwi have that.
Council can't do anything. That's what you're saying.
Iwi have that power, correct.
Yeah.
So,
Question? Yeah.
yeah, I see in the 75% of all campground revenue is made during the peak summer season. That's from the 1st of December to the 30th of April.
Mm.
And where am I going here? The and you did a Labour weekend survey of a small sample. How small was that sample? And the results told you that no visitors from the Waikato region, is that right?
The sample size was 160, 11% were boat users, and I think that there was 1% wake boats, 0% Waikato visitors. But like I say, that's a really small sample size, and the Taharoa domain officers and KDC staff wouldn't use Labour weekend visitors as a direct comparison to what we see over the summer period. We see a lot more people.
Okay, ask my questions.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think if you would like to step back.
Thank you for that.
The opportunity for members to make their statements. Now, as the mover of the motion, Councillor Pera.
Yep, so I'm obviously moved this motion because absolutely.
Could I just seek your forbearance for a moment? Our minute clerk here would like to make a small technical amendment to the wording so we get that 100% straight. It's just that it says
that way.
Okay?
No,
You don't agree to it?
no. So my statement is that we will be, I'm fully in favour of this, motion. We'll be has offered to partner with, KDC. We've talked about MPI funding, that we may be able to access, for biosecurity measures, which I'm also in favour of. And that this is only temporary to ensure that there's a plan in place, so that we can safeguard our taonga. These lakes are a unique natural landscape, and that from the small survey, which we can't really take from, but based on that small sample size, only 11% were boat users. And a number of some of the suggestions around looking at limiting, like differentiating between the risks of Waikato, boats coming from there. Hopefully, once the plan is developed, that we will have different risk ratings for boat users. I know personally some boat goers that do use the lakes, and I believe that they value them just as much as anyone else and would understand the reasons for the short-term precaution for the long-term benefit of all of lake users, including themselves. We have been informed of the risk here today. This committee is responsible for the lakes, and we are the kaitiaki of these lakes. If we don't take precautions and it is introduced this summer, the consequences could be catastrophic, and then we will be on the chopping block with the community for allowing this to happen, and that in itself will be a reputational risk if we allow it to happen. Now, there are other mechanisms in place for mana whenua, such as Rahui, that has been mentioned today. However, I believe that we should still, as a committee, send a clear signal that we're taking the most appropriate precautionary measures based on the information that we have today. And that's me. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder, would you like to make your statement now, please? It's you.
Yep.
Your turn.
Seconder still stands.
You. So,
Statement.
would you like to speak?
No, I think what actually I do, I think it's our responsibility here, the ones sitting here now today, to understand what could happen based on the way that these things can travel. And based on the risk, what is the percentage of risk? We don't know. But I guarantee that it would be 100% risk just to allow the boats to go until we have a set plan in place. And the reality is there's no set plan in place. There's no actual public health risk management plan being done by the council on the basis of it. And really, this needs to be all taken care of. But if we can't negate the risk, we can't absolutely isolate it. So what are we going to do? How real is the risk? There's already risk in there that we didn't take any notice of. The council didn't take any notice of. And now there's this thing, where we could be walking on shells and not sand, And that's very real. Now, even if these things were edible, the reality is that they still take up all the nutrients, everything that's in the lake, all the planktons, everything is taken up, and there's no chance for other life. And we'll see that as the ones only get worse and worse. How are we going to what are we gonna decide? It's our responsibility.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak to the motion?
Is a statement, right?
Statement, yes.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. I'm just going to reiterate what I said before, and as a first-time councillor and with the mission we have, the Kaipara place to be, my wholehearted efforts, and I will expect EV to support at least Kaipara in that goal of bringing people to Kaipara rather than showing them away. So I think it will be a landmark decision for this committee if all of us together vote against this motion to say status quo and go for the education, which we had the story of dune humans coming to Kaipara beaches on another matter, and we were able to do a very good job by educating people. And I actually went to the beaches to see that all is good, signage is there, and I'm sure we can do similar thing, education, signage, and actually the sample testing, being someone who does not act in haste and make decisions based on little information and repent the rest of their life. So I will be voting against this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Yeah, look, I think no matter what we do, there'll always be risk that's inherent in what's been put before us today. I'm really surprised that we have no plan now, even if you banned any boats coming to the lake. You've still got other risks with canoes. The boats can be used elsewhere. And, you know, we need an immediate plan now, and I'm not sure that that plan will differ come October 2024. Looking at, and I think that I think we should seek from NRC that plan double quick, and we should put that to the next meeting of full council. At this time, I'm not going to vote to ban the boats. I'm going to seek that we have that plan presented quickly.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak to the motion?
Yeah. Yeah, look, I come to the point in page 2 of the discussion document where it says, until there is further scientific evidence and reporting provided that could support KDC through legal process, potential challenges, reputational risk, KDC's preferred option is the status quo, like Ash has spoken about, the education, having staff on site, talking to people as they're coming in and having that real stop barrier and education so that people understand what is going on. I am concerned, concerned that the bylaw will only allow the boat ramp closure. Boats could come from anywhere else as well. So I don't think this is a concrete step. I think that on funding options that might be available to KDC for these wash stations and get a comprehensive plan really quickly, I would support having some more options to be looked at in this space. So I won't be supporting this recommendation.
Can I just report it? With recommendations about wash stations and clean, check and dry a long time ago, and none of it's ever eventuated.
You've had your turn.
Based on risk, biosecurity risk.
Thank you.
I don't really care about the lakes. That's what I get.
Yes. I think I'm the only one left who hasn't had a word on it. From my perspective, the option in front of us will be like a hand grenade going off in the council office. I don't mean that literally, but in terms of its implications.
You need to worry about the lakes and not the office.
Yeah.
Give me a chance to finish my statement, please. However, I do think that we take the long-term view, and I will also say one of my perspectives is that the economy exists in the environment, not the other way around. And I think that if nothing else, it would be a symbolic gesture to go ahead with the motion as it stands. And given that everybody's spoken, no one has the opportunity to propose an amendment. I will. I also want to acknowledge the Mayor's proposed option, if we could implement it, of excluding boats that come from south of the as a means of risk management. And I guess what we're talking about is risk management rather than exclusion of this pest. And we have technical advice from the regional council's experts that says quite strongly that we should be taking the step of doing what we can to prevent boats from getting into the water at Lake Taharoa. I think they have understated the financial and reputational risks associated with taking the step, but I think that we need to be looking ahead, not just the horrendous period that we will experience if this goes ahead as per the recommend. It won't be pretty, I can see that, but I think that it is necessary for us to take this step. And very possibly it would be, such a move would be enhanced, not that it's my role to say, to direct that to happen, but I imagine it would be enhanced with the imposition of a rahui from the local iwi as well. That might strike a chord with some people that wouldn't accept the council's bureaucratic response. That's my statement. So a final right of reply from the...
Yeah, I take all of the points that everyone said. I mean, some decisions are difficult decisions to make. We're probably going to be quite hated by a number of people. I'm happy to put my name out in the public and say that I've advocated for this decision. That's how strongly I feel about protecting the lakes. And anyone who actually cares about the generational effects, and we have lots of Aucklanders that come to the area and it's a tradition of theirs, and they've grown a love for the lakes as well. And so if they can think in the long term, they'll understand the decision that's made, and not all will be like that. And that's Kei Te Pai. And, you know, this is the nuclear, like I feel like it is the nuclear option, but it's thankfully only a temporary measure until we can sort of really put some really good checks and balances in place around, as you say, risk management, which is really what we are talking about here. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I'll put the motion to the vote and I'll call for a division as two, please. Okay, so actually I could just hold the members. Is that you or you?
Yes, I do.
Me. Okay, so I'll ask you.
Okay. Councillor Livingston?
I'm last normally, but that's okay. No, I'll say 4.
Councillor Nair?
Be a bit louder, please.
Councillor Nair?
Against.
Sunny?
Sorry, I can't. I need to be able to hear you.
I'm for.
Thank you.
Councillor Paniora?
Sorry. Yeah.
4. Rick?
4.
Councillor Williams?
Against.
Mayor Gibson?
Against.
What have we got?
4 fours and 3 against.
Oh, okay, so the motion is carried.
Yeah.
So that will go on the next available council agenda for consideration.
I would expect the council to start putting in preliminary comms out.
Because of I guess the reference for this committee only makes recommendations to council, so
that
ADC staff cannot
or
make any.
recommendation that the committee.
So the council have approved.
But what I'm saying is that there still should be some media around, a recommendation has been made from the committee that.
Yep, we'll put out a media release.
That holds the mana of the domain.
Yes.
Because then you're predetermining a potential decision at the council level.
Correct.
And if the council supports it, then the sat on a decision for a number of weeks is going to heighten the situation. That's just my whakaaro. Thank you.
Okay, now, it's not in your agenda, but there is this request from Northern Life Saving Search and Rescue for the use of the lake on the 25th of November. Now, just to seek clarification from staff, is that a decision we can make, or does it have to be only a recommendation to council?
No, so we can, this committee has the power to approve and decline events. The current process for approving events is just via email, so we circulate approve and request approval for events as they come to us.
Well, let's just, while we're here, do it in a formal way, because we what happened last time.
So what I was going to say is park this and do that alongside the operational report by Nadine Spring and get those approvals all together, if that makes most sense.
I mean, I'm happy to move a motion that the event be approved.
Well, for me, why I parked the quarterly report at the end of the meeting was because it's an information item as opposed to requiring a substantive decision. This request requires a substantive decision, so.
There's also within the operation report, the snorkel day and also another event that I'm just taking a look for. There's a couple of events that are in that main report.
There's one for January as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Look, my problem there is, in receiving the report, are we approving those events?
Yes, because they're in the report.
Yes.
Can we just separate the events out of that report and deal with those and then get the information? Because my preference would just be to stick to the process because of what happened with the last event and bring everything back to a proper decision-making process.
So,
to future events that require approval from the operational report, and then the third event that we've.
okay, so we can, right, well, if you've got that other one in there as well, I hadn't connected that, so that it makes sense to put those two together. So I will reverse my previous idea of having that dealt with separately now. We're informed by the discussions had this morning already about the plan, so that might make a difference to the decision we make on those applications. So the next item then I will move to is the toilet and shower facilities upgrades issue. I will wait for Mr. Frears to present on that. So in order to progress this, perhaps we should start with a motion on the floor. Is there a mover for the motion, bearing in mind, actually, tell you what, I will move the motion and I will say in terms of option B that the campground should be delivered as 2 ablution blocks. Is there a seconder?
That option 1 or option 2?
2 rather than 1 or 2.
B.
What's the take up? That part. Make it two additional.
The seconder?
Seconder.
Thank you. Right. So, Mark.
And so, while we're just talking toilets and showers, it's also quite exciting that what's proposed in this report would be a significant investment in the Pine Beach Campground, which hasn't seen a lot of investment in some years. So the situation we have at present is that the number of campers that we're having stay at Pine Beach is greater than the amount of facilities provided in terms of meeting the campground regulations. So to comply with the campground regulations, we either need to reduce the number of campers staying there or we need to provide more facilities. The other issue we have is that there's no day visitor toilets. So the day visitors are just using the campground facilities. And that also causes people to sort of crowd around that area where the toilets are. And while we've created a visitor area a little further to the west, there is the lack of facilities there. We're also currently mitigating the issue by bringing in portaloos, which do provide more capacity, but they're also quite expensive as an ongoing operational cost. So the proposal is to get in there and build some substantial, more substantive facilities, which, well, you've got a higher capital cost to build them. Once they're there, the operating cost is much, much lower than you would otherwise have with portaloos or some other options. So that's essentially sort of the two options we have there. For the first recommendation is either that we build the facilities to continue to have the same level of occupancy at the campground, or the other alternative is that we reduce the occupancy at the campground to align with the facilities. And given the reduction in campground revenue and the number of people able to enjoy that space, we're recommending the option one of build the facilities. The other part there is, do we have one evolution block or do we have the two smaller ones? There's not a lot of difference in cost, so we're reasonably open there. So that's essentially the paper, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Councillor Pera.
Thank you, through the chair. So it's the same question that I probably raised previously, but it's about the type of toilets, because I was wanting to see some sort of eco-friendly toilets that don't have to have flushing involved, but can still be. Is that something that's been considered in the designs, or are you at that stage?
Yep, so that's been considered. So given, every environment I think is quite sensitive, around the Motu, but the Kaiwi Lakes particularly is a very sensitive environment. So we're only looking at, obviously, any new facility is going to need to comply with the latest environmental standards. We'll look at putting something in there which is environmentally friendly.
So what does that mean?
In this case, we're looking at on-site wastewater treatment. Remembering, if we put in a system that we have to cart the effluent away, that's also got environmental impacts. And also some of the systems like composting toilets, for example, can be well suited to like a private residence, a private batch, for example. But when you start to apply them to a public toilet setting, especially a very, very busy public toilet setting like this one, they don't work the same. So, yeah, so the environmental considerations have been at the fore of this. We've looked at the different options.
We've had long drops up at Kaiwi Lakes for years, and so now we're being told that more eco-friendly option.
Yeah, so
it's no longer viable.
Some of the historic investments in infrastructure haven't always been the most environmentally friendly, say, especially when you talk about public toilets going back historically. The other issue which we tend to see with planning is there's your ongoing operational cost, and then there's your capex cost. And
I get it.
Yeah, so in the past people have sort of gone for the cheaper option, but then you've got the higher ongoing capital costs. So like a dry vault toilet, for example, is quite
value of the environment, though, does it? It's taking into account more like the financial, the ongoing having to cart it
costs as well with carting the effluent away. Also, you're only really moving the problem. So,
But it's
environmental,
Kaiwi Lakes well, isn't it?
but we can also manage that on site effectively in terms of the environment as well. So like I say, we're not going to table, which is an environmental risk, environmental concern.
Is an environmental concern not taking water out of the lake to feed the toilets when the lake's at critical state due to
So the water,
some loss that's
yeah, so the water input,
by being only submerged lightly?
so the alternative would be then to truck water in, because if you take water from a rainwater take, you're taking out of the same rainwater catchment.
But if you have a bio toilet similar to drops that we've had for years out at the lakes, for years, you don't have to have any water to run it.
There are also requirements in the campground regulations for, I don't know if we have to flush in toilets, but we do have to have hand water wash hand basins and things as well.
I'm not talking about the basins, I'm talking about the actual
Toilet.
flushing toilets.
Yeah,
Because I was told previously that that would be considered and now it's like, oh, that,
it has been considered, so yes.
in what way, just, is there any report? Can I,
There's a section, there's a section in your report that weighs up the reports there.
no, it's not.
Yeah.
There's no design or quote in the report.
No, sorry.
The quotes that you've actually given it proper due consideration.
So there's a table there which compares the different kinds of toilets. The box one, types of application.
Just quickly.
No, some proper, you've gone out, you've priced it, you've truly considered it. Those sorts of reports, do you have any of those?
So that was a report which was prepared for us by Downer. It's not,
Are we able to,
yes, we can circulate that.
thank you,
Yes.
thank you. That's me.
So you got any other questions?
Yeah, just have a quick question. So the on-site treatment one, you're not going for, you're going for the hybrid one, as Councillor Pinera, which pointed out there's overheads involved with that regular basis. Why we are not going for on-site treatment? Is there any reason?
So we are treating on site. So there's an existing system that's in place at the Kaiwi Lakes presently, which takes the wastewater from the Pine Beach. We're looking to basically just going to bolt onto that and upgrade that as required. So it's a modular system we can upgrade. We still need to go through get into the real details of. We've done a sort of conceptual level investigation. We need to start getting out into the details of exactly what upgrades will be required. In theory, you're not adding users to the system. So in theory, everyone is already going there and using the facilities that are currently in place. Although we suspect that when if we build nicer facilities, we may get more use. So we have to get our engineers to do some detailed work around exactly what upgrades are going to be required to the existing system that's out there. But there is an existing system which we'll be bolting onto.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor.
What's your timescale here, Mark? It wouldn't obviously be for this summer, it would be.
No, not this summer.
So this summer we're still committed to Portaloos? Okay.
And just in clarification for my satisfaction, because you're talking about on-site treatment being on the site within the beach area, if you like, but the actual disposal is pumped over the hill and out of the immediate catchment. So really and I take from Councillor Peter, her concern is more about the amount of water consumption rather than the waste disposal system with that, because I think there's a lot to be said for that approach, but that would be a comment rather than a question. But
so with the water, yeah, because there's two aspects to it, right? So you got how do you deal with your wastewater, which is the treatment on site, and then the disposal. I'd say on site, but it's, the Taharoa domain is a big place and it's over the hill, which should be good with the water to dispose of it after treatment. That's the status quo. And we'll have to look at if we increase the amount that we need to revisit our resource consent or not. But that's, as I say, that's just some of the details of it. But in terms of the water consumption, so the current system, again, in theory, the same number of using the campgrounds. But sorry, the showers were never intended for day visitors anyway. Really, it's the same number of campers, in theory, taking the same number of showers. But whether if it increases we expect probably will be some increase in water you take. The way that Pine Beach currently done. And then that comes down and gets treated and distributed from there. So the alternative to using water from the lake would, because you can add rainwater tanks, but the lake essentially is your rainwater tank, and you'd be taking rainwater from the same catchment. So you'd essentially have to truck water in or find another take outside the catchment.
So do I take it then as one way of explaining it would be like you have your standard 3-bedroom house with, say, 2 people living in it, and you add an ensuite with an extra toilet in it. Total outgoings should remain the same, even though you've got one more pan. Would that be right?
Correct, but you then tick the box for compliance. What we theoretically are reducing is the line. So there's people standing in line waiting for a shower, waiting for the toilet, is in theory what we are reducing.
So that could have an impact sort of socially. Yeah, okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Rachel.
Yeah, my question would be, I was keen to look at composting toilets as well, but I've just done a quick tally up of peak times and guest numbers. And in January, there was, last year, 5,687 guests. I don't think a composting toilet or a system of them, you'd have to have somebody on site just doing that every single day. It would be quite labour intensive and could get out of balance, whether they're worms or composting ones. So I can understand where this might not be able to be used.
It's horses for courses. We are looking at putting in, we're looking at the moment of putting a dry vault toilet into another site, but it's horses for courses as to what's available on that site and what kind of use we expect that site to get. All impacts on that. Composting toilets generally don't work particularly well in a public toilet setting, especially not a busy one.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just one question on timeline. I mean, this is the thing I've heard for many months now. What stops us? Why we take so long in even delivering toilets? I don't understand.
Yeah, a lot of the.
Explain to me why it's not this summer?
Yeah. Why is not this summer? Firstly, we need to get budgets in line. So with one of these, we've got funding. So the day visit toilets, we've got funding from the tourism infrastructure funds. So that one we can get going on sooner. The other we're going to need to put money in the LTP for. So that's going to be a decision of the council as well as to how we fund that, when we fund that. So we've got to get the funding in line. Once we've got the funding in line, we have to go through the details of design, consenting, etc. So we've got to work through all of the regulatory process as well as making sure what we're designing is well designed, because we get right into the details of design. At the moment, we've got a conceptual level report, which is that Downer report, which we can share, which looks at concept, and there's extracts from that. So you can see in the report, you've got the concept plans of where we could locate the buildings, how they could be connected. So that's your conceptual level, and you get sort of a conceptual level price indication, so you sort of know what ballpark of costs you're talking about. Then you start to get, once we get past the approval step, which is where we're at today, then you start to get into the real details of exactly how much is it going to cost, exactly what are we going to build, where are we, and then also again, where are we going to get these from? Where are we going to get the wastewater systems from? Where are we going to buy the pipes from, etc. And who's going to do the construction? And that all, getting through all of that takes quite a bit of time. So that's the
Mark, just I mean, going too long on that. This is not the first toilet being built in New Zealand. I think we have to not put the cart before the horse. You have to know what the cost is before you talk LTP. Maybe we don't need LTP money. TAF is good enough. So I think we just delay projects and then we have 25% escalation every year. You have to have design and code before you come for LTP. I think, anyway, there's something for next level.
Mr. Chair, in summing up, I think the councils are like a lot of financial institutions, they have to do their planning about years in advance. I've noticed over the years, the KDC, that's how they seem to operate. Ash.
Thank you for that observation. Okay, I think that's all the questions that we need to be putting for now. Thank you for that. You can step down now if you like, Mark. And I will ask I'm the mover. Make a by.
Councillor Wilson, can I just ask for a point of clarification?
Sure.
What exactly are we voting on again?
Okay, it is.
One, is it?
Yes, as detailed in option 1 in the report. I guess it would have been tidier if we had that expressly stated in the resolution.
It is.
That perhaps would mean that the minutes could stand on their own then without needing to refer back to another report. Oh, fair question.
So it's for 2 ablution blocks. You took out the 1, did you?
Yes. I presume that there's the option of, if they're placed strategically, that people don't have to walk so far depending on where they're based or whatever.
Actual spend on this at the moment. We're not saying yes to any amount which we haven't seen. This is just approves the plan to address the undersupply of public toilet and shower facilities. So we're addressing that, then the council will come back through the LTP process for us to then work through the costs.
Well, in part for one that's required to be funding for LTP, whereas the TIF one
But Dave is
can proceed.
the TIF funder. Yeah. This is for the larger ablution block, the showers and.
That will come back to council.
Okay, I just.
Process.
Thank you.
Are you able to look? With the agreement of the seconder, I'd like to replace the words as detailed in option 1 in this report with the words that explain what the option actually is.
On page.
Yeah, that's fine.
Insufficient.
Which is investing in sufficient toilet and shower facilities to achieve compliance with the camping ground regulations 1985 or whatever it is. Dug that out from a fair way back.
You might read all.
It says, saying is just delete layers and just buy, say, by investing. Insufficient. I think we should say that the regs are, is it camping ground regulations?
Yeah.
1985 something?
Yeah, 1980.
96.
1995, yeah.
I can remember phone numbers too.
And number plates.
And then you can delete the words in this report. So can we have that up on the screen? So the motion is that the Taharoa Domain Governance Committee approves the plan to address the undersupply of public toilet and shower facilities at Pine Beach by investing in sufficient toilet and shower facilities to achieve compliance with the Camping Ground Regulations 1985. A bit wordy, but stands by itself then. And directs that the toilet and shower facilities for the campground should be delivered as 2 ablution blocks.
Through the chair, can we add some more word to the wording?
Suppose I've opened myself up to that by changing it myself.
All I'm trying to put in context is this is a project which has been approved by TIF, approved by the EV, as supported by them and all those kind of things. It's taking too long. Can we put the word that as soon as possible? Yeah.
I don't have any objection to that.
Thank you.
Now, this is going to still be a recommendation of council, isn't it?
Yes, hopefully they will take some note of it. Thank you.
So,
But this, yeah, this still ties
the
in.
Taharoa Domain Governance Committee recommends to council that. Sorry to muck you around. Should have. Recommends the following to council. So that the Taharoa Domain Governance Committee recommends to council the following.
That's better.
How about that? The English isn't quite right, but I'm happy for you to tidy it up a bit later. Okay, so that's the motion. I think it's, speaking to the motion as the mover, I think this is a practical step in improving the quality of the experience that visitors to the Taharoa Domain will have, and I endorse that. And because it appears that the options are available to provide a solution which would have minimal adverse effects on that environment. Thank you. So seconder.
Nothing further to add.
Okay, thank you. Any other people wish to speak to the motion? Don't have to. Okay, I'll now put the motion.
Oh, who was it?
It's a godly voice.
It was Monroe.
I think it's Tracy dropping in and out on the internet, getting in.
Okay. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 Against? Being none, carried. Thank you. So we move on now to the quarterly report.
Can we take a 5-minute break through the chair?
Okay, if you want to, okay, righty, I've been going nearly 2 hours. Yep, I'll go for a brief intermission. 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Meaning actual 5 minutes?
Yep.
I thought this was only till 12, this meeting. I've got another meeting at 12, sorry, I'll have to duck off.
Okay. I can't get, we'll finish it in 5 minutes, but the Taharoa Domain quarterly report. I'd like to move that the received or submitted.
That's straight there. Oh.
Yes.
Offence, actually good.
Okay, so
My head around other stuff.
thank you. I'm assuming that you've read the report. So would you just briefly highlight what you've written, ma'am?
Yes, thank you. So yes, so I guess the one thing that I do want to mention is that the team have been working really hard. I think for us to talk about today is the upcoming events. There is a report in there that Hayley's prepared regarding the Northland Cup Regatta weekend event that was that didn't go ahead. So there's an incident report attached there. I want to just point out, let you guys know as well what the process is with events that come through. So recognising as well is that there is a little bit of a change in behaviour. There are a lot of events that historically we didn't know about until after they'd happened, and I think a lot of that has come because people have just done it that way. They've just come and done their own thing. So we are actively contacting event organisers that we know have held events in the past to remind them of what the process is, and the feedback from that has been good. But just so that you're aware of what our internal process is. So once we receive the report, I guess from the being the activity manager, I have a look at it just to make sure that it's aligned with our policies, bylaws, values and vision of council. If there's a clash with another event, from there I forward it through to our health and safety manager. So she reviews it and then completes a health and safety evaluation. So first and foremost, it needs to get past whether we want the event to happen from a KDC perspective. It's then forwarded to the Harbour Master at NRC for review and seeking his approval. Then it comes to the committee for approval. So all the background work is done, just so that you guys know those boxes all been ticked, otherwise it wouldn't even come across your desks. That being said, we've got the Kaiwi Lake Snorkel Day event. That is an event that we have had up at the lakes in the past. I do want to just bring your attention to the fact that it is sponsored by Water Safety New Zealand. That one was included in the report because we did receive all the documentation prior to the report being due, and the second event, I forget what it's called, the most recent one that's due in a couple of weeks, that documentation, that request was received after the report was already written, sorry. But open to any questions, and we've got, no, she's not online. I'll just get Glynis McCarthy, I'll just ask her to join, so if you've got any questions around the health and safety perspective, she'll be able to answer them for you.
All right, through chair. Yeah, just a quick one. So there is an incident report also on what happened with the regatta. And I was just confused with so you have multiple ways of recording it. What is Pro Maps?
ProMaps is it's software for where you can map your processes. So it just does detail by line as to what our process is. So for instance, what our internal process, what I just explained to you for when we receive a request for an event, that process would be documented in the ProMaps system.
And through the chair, the reason we would do that is if, say, Nadine won the lotto
didn't come back
tomorrow night and didn't come to work on Thursday, that someone that was replacing her would be able to look up and see that process, and we wouldn't need that handover. They'd be able to read the process without having to try and contact Nadine.
Sorry, but this event was not recorded in ProMaps.
This process was not recorded in ProMaps.
Why?
KDC has hundreds of processes that are not recorded in ProMaps, and we're just going through a process over the last 2-3 years to get all of our processes in. This is one process that was not there. we found through investigating that incident, so we'll provide that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, given that we've impliedly got an approval for the snorkeling day event, I will highlight that specifically. Are there any questions about that?
So Peter, before she left, indicated that unless the Water Safety New Zealand can come back to us about removing the need for a jet ski or powerboat part of their event.
Well, I did with that and also that what are
The night event.
search and rescue training event, where I think you did reply to my question that they would have IRBs on hand. Is that inflatable rubber boats?
Yes.
In the event of an emergency where they needed to get to somewhere quickly, but otherwise they would stay on shore. Now, are we taking a stand here, or I'd like to ask members what their view is on that.
Mr. Chair, I also would vote against that on the same grounds. If there's a jet ski.
No, it's not a jet ski, but I presume it would be a powered boat.
Yeah, jet ski IRB. I think it says, or the Kaiwi Lake Snorkel Day talks about jet ski or IRB, and the Northern Life Saving Search and Rescue night operation has just an IRB.
Right.
So yeah, there's a couple.
So in light of the recommendation that will go to council on what's been decided today, where does that actually leave us in even being able to approve or not approve? Because it hasn't gone to council for the final decision, and that won't happen until mid-December. Is that going to be enough time after that to say yes or no to this, or?
So through the chair, I would say conditionally approve those events, so long as they can meet the requirements of that recommendation, that they wouldn't have an IRB or a jet ski in use, and if they can confirm that, then we could move forward with the approval, or we could say that we decline conditionally unless they remove, so you could use either of those options.
Can I just ask, how would you feel about that, Rick?
Well,
if say that it was conditional upon that risk being eliminated.
Yeah, if it was eliminated, yeah, no problem. They can go ahead.
Just further to that, I think the issue becomes then is that their safety plan would be null and voided if they don't have that availability to go and rescue somebody if they got into trouble. So
what's the class of boats that would still be allowed on the lake, such as a kayak or something like that?
We're suggesting that something's happening. An emergency may happen within the emergency training.
Yeah.
So, you know, and it's all planned out. It's actually, all they have to do is execute it. And really, that's what their risk management plan is based on. They have the safety watches in place, they have the overseers in place, they have everything in place.
So this is a little bit going a bit pear-shaped, but anyway, just to reach the conclusion, I appreciate your perspective, because I think the way you're heading is that we're looking at a particular level of risk management through the previous decision or recommendation that we've made to council, and you would see with the night training exercise that they are taking a risk management approach as well.
Yeah.
And there is a small possibility that
things might not go to plan.
Yeah, and that in that case, and also if we specify that the where the boats come from, maybe it just occurs to me,
Yeah.
we would have control over where those boats come from.
Yep.
We can specify that, which would be nice to enable something to go ahead. And it's like we could, this has just occurred to me, because I don't like to be the party pooper, but at the same time, as I said, when we're dealing with the other item, we've got to think of taking a long-term view of things. We're managing the risk, we're not eliminating it. It might be an acceptable way to manage the risk by seeking assurances that the boat hasn't been over the harbour bridge in the last month or something like that.
Or it's had its
Feel about that?
check and dry.
Huh?
Or it's had its full clean and check
Yeah,
and dry.
Yeah.
You know, really, that's about as, even if you were to have it for the gold clan, you'd still be your basic clean, check and dry.
We've
Matter.
got other things there.
Same thing.
We've got the gold clam and plus also the vegetation
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
So
So good point, and taking it.
rescue is not a pleasure event. It is the people who actually save lives. And if we are trying to make their life difficult, we are not doing any favors. We can put conditions on there to save our butt, to say, well, this is vegetation or whatever, this is the area you can work on or whatever, but we should try to make it, and I'm quite dismayed that we are just very micro-focused and we are not looking at the big picture. Imagine one of the committee member dying and self-rescue remembers that. You didn't let it go and he dies. I'll be very pleased because he deserved to die. That's what I'm trying to say. In my humble opinion is we should try to make it happen within parameters. Thank you.
Well, I guess from my perspective, I don't want the lake to die.
Yes.
I was going to say that the lake's been there hundreds of years. We would like it to be there another 500 years.
Yeah, and really that's, you know,
Could be
that time frame is
one small step
what.
tip over the edge.
Well, all I'm trying to say, you can be, I mean, a lot of people don't sleep at night. They imagine things. And we should not, as a committee, be getting into that sort of mode that this is our lake and everything else is against the lake. That is not the opinion we should have. What appears to me, we are trying to make things difficult and we are finding reasons to make it difficult. That should not be the approach of this committee. I'm quite disappointed if that is the approach. Yeah.
Safety plan is a requirement. Safety plan is a requirement.
You wanted to contribute something?
Yeah, sorry. So I guess what I was going to say is what you can do is you can approve the surf's lifesaving event, the night event that's on the 25th of November, with the conditions that staff communicate to them the fact that the decision around the removal of white boats has been made pending approval by council, and for them to take that into consideration for their event. And then the other event that's in January, we will have a definite outcome that we'll be able to communicate to them before their event. So I think at this stage, it's only the single night event that will be impacted by your decision at this point.
The times are pretty much when it's still daylight, isn't it?
It's about, so Harbour Bridge, and to provide us with assurances that
Also clean.
that risk will be eliminated.
Through the chair, can I just ask if is online now, if that would, like from a KDC health and safety perspective, if she'd be happy for council to be approving the event with these conditions?
It's not really a health and safety issue.
Would it have, actually, sorry, if I can reword that, if that would affect her evaluation of the event?
Of her evaluation of the event.
From a health and safety.
Well, see, where we've got to though is that we're not saying that they can't have boats. We're saying that they are going to need boats, that they have to be clean in terms of the.
And that could be your conditional approval, that you approve so long as that the boat is clean and it's gone through the clean, check, dry exercise.
And it hasn't been.
Yeah, and it hasn't been over the harbour bridge, exactly. So you can make that your.
Even in the general law and the bylaw, it's, health and safety boats are always a requirement.
So, okay, so are we together on that?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to work a little bit by consensus.
We've got away from the powerboat thing though, haven't we?
Well, the mayor made that suggestion in a previous discussion about the idea, if we could control the boats that came from south of the line being Auckland Harbour Bridge, then we wouldn't have such a risk. That would be a way of managing the risk potentially of the wake boats or whatever coming on to and having the contamination with them and coming onto the lake. In this situation, for both of those applications, we know who the people are who we're bringing the boat, and we can direct them.
Correct.
To manage that situation. So that's what I'm hoping that we can reach agreement on. We haven't got a resolution to vote on that.
No, all we do is just approval, usually via email. So if you want to agree to conditionally approve and for us to provide assurance back to the committee, we can.
Okay, you will, perhaps that can follow on subsequently, because I do want to wrap this up.
Yeah.
And then if we could see the words that were going to be used as spelling out that.
Yep, okay. I can share that response that we would send to both of those event organisers to the group for their support. And then we'll send that on and get that response back.
Oh, Mr. Chair, there's still myself and Hera have voted against powerboat.
No, you haven't voted.
Oh, sorry. Have read
your view. I'm hoping that we.
So you can't count our vote as being for.
Well, still a quorum, so.
But it depends if you have
your vote doesn't count.
Large number, that's okay.
This will be done outside the meeting.
We'll seek email approval.
So then we don't have to worry about. Well, actually, strictly speaking, the motion on the table is just receipt or noting the quarterly report. That's all we're considering, but this is tucked in behind it. So I think we've had a good discussion.
Done this before at the lake.
Yeah?
It's not really, they're already, the event has actually taken place before at the lakes.
Yeah.
You know?
We didn't have a gold clam threat before.
Oh, no, and that's right. Well, maybe that we still had gold clams, but probably not to the abundance of what they are now.
Yes, okay. So I'm happy now to thank you for no other questions, Nadine. Does anyone want to make a statement in regard to noting the quarterly report? Jolly good.
Really, I think it.
Rick, you moved it, so did you want to say anything further? Okay, seconder?
I was a seconder.
You're on you.
Or seconder?
No, Sonny.
Nothing, as I said, I would like to make things happen, not stopped. Thank you.
Just noted.
I'll put this to the vote, so we can all go home. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. I think that brings us to the end of proceedings. So, Sonny, would you like to give us the karakia in closing, please?
Tuana hau ki te korero mai ki a koe i te atua. Te atua parirau ki ro. I te kaue mai i tētahi tangata o te kawanatanga o Taharoa. Ke tau mai ai, ngā ahuatanga ko haere ki te mahi, ko haere ki te meeting. Whakapainga whakapainga e tātou mai. Ki te hemana mo te whakapapa a te kaunihira o Taharoa, ngamihi atu ki a koe. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. I raro i te parirau o te atua. Nā reira. Amen.
Amen.
Kia ora.